Hello everybody, my name is Souls Convoy, and today we're taking a look at Newage Red Scorpion. I believe it's H50C. Quick look at the box. Getting right into it. So very typical Newage box. It's got a usual build, art of the guy, picture. That's that. So kind of quick, but you know, it is a quick look. I say that every time, and then I end up going over time anyways. So taking a look at the figure itself, starting off with the head, and the fake tire fell off, or the spare tire. Going to be an issue coming up. Head sculpt, you have this. It's really hard to get the eyes focused because of how he has a giant like cap, so they always look like they're kind of dark or dull, but they do have a really nice red paint in hand. So, you know, they are just kind of dark. He has this nice silver paint. He has a goatee painted on, which is kind of crazy, but super funny, and a reference to him being a junkie on, so I don't really mind it. I'll talk about the cannon later, but that is ugly. It's just an unfortunate design choice. He has these nice tampos that carry over from alt mode, and some robot mode exclusive tampos like on his forearms, his hips, and his thighs and knees, and on his feet, and those all look really good. His proportions overall are a little new agey in the sense that their mini bots often have like slightly dumpy proportions, but in this case, honestly, he does look pretty good. I'm honestly a fan of it, and he cleans up really well in some areas. There's a little bit of gappiness there, but for the most part, you won't really see it unless you engage the elbow. So yeah, it looks pretty good, looks dynamic. And that's thanks to a lot of articulation. So the head is on a ball joint. It can look up all the way. It can't really do, it can do 360, obviously. It might bump into the cannon from that side though. It can't really look side to side on the ball joint because of the design, but since of a transformation hinge, this part freely like hinges side to side, so he can kind of like get that in, which is great. The shoulders are in a ball joint, so universal, though this ball joint is a bit looser than I'd like. It's gotten loose over time, but nothing like a single drop of polyurethane can't fix. Double jointed elbow with a bicep swivel in the middle to hide the cut. So you have one elbow right up here, which is the tighter one. And then you've got a second elbow for the full bend. But if you just want to use one elbow, you can use a bicep swivel. And then you can use the bottom elbow for your bicep swivel. So something Newage does a lot. Again, I'm mixed feelings about it. It does hide the bicep cut, but I mean, it means you can only use a double elbow without using the bicep swivel. Otherwise, you just kind of have like a 120 degree. The wrists are on, and like the elbow around the shoulder ball joint is weirdly loose. It's looser on some angles than others, so I think it might be a molding error. But it's not really a big deal since the arms are super lightweight like the rest of him, and even a shake, nothing's really flopping around. The wrists are on ball joints, which not only allows them to, you know, do the full 360, but they can also like emote. They can go up and down a bit, and they can go inwards to the side, which is really nice for those like, you know, those dynamic heroic stance poses. Like Mecha usually have their fists angled inwards, so that's awesome. Superheroes do it too. He has an ab crunch, which is nice. He has a waist swivel, and unlike Wheeljack, the ab crunch and the waist swivel can work at the same time. And unlike Wheeljack, the hips and the waist swivel and the ab crunch can all work at the same time. He also has pretty nice hips, which can kick up to, let me not use the ab crunch. They can kick up pretty far because of that gap. I know people complain about that gap being ugly, but it doesn't really bother me because of how much articulation it necessitates. And if you put him in like a classical mecha crotch thrust pose, there's no gap, which is what I usually do, so I don't really care. Again, huge, really nice kick on those legs. Outwards motion, like always. They can also kick back pretty well. And then they have a thigh swivel that is actually really tight. The thigh swivel is tight compared to everything else. Double jointed knee for the full bend, which is great. And then the ankles have a bunch of joints. They have a hinge right here, which allows you to do that, which is awesome. And they have a ball joint, which allows you to ball joint. And you can get a lot of forward range out of these in a lot of different ways. And you can get a little bit of backwards range out of them, I think. Not much. But the problem, unfortunately, is that his side to side, which means his ankle rocker, is limited to just that. And it's only like 15 degrees. That is the only limitation this guy has articulation-wise, except for like butterfly joints. He doesn't have those, but you can kind of wiggle the ball joints forward as well. So it's just a shame with those ankles. This is truly the maximum range of his ankle pivot, and he might actually have more the other way, and that's nice for like running poses and stuff. You know, when you're trying to get into a good running pose, you just want to use that outwards, right? Or you can do with this arm, you know, always boxing up while running. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just been unfortunate that they didn't really get more ankle tilt range. I wonder if you could like shave down some of the ball joint cup to like get him more range, but I personally wouldn't recommend it. He does pose and emote pretty well. It's just a shame about those. Regarding the accessories, the first one is going to be the shoulder cannon, and this is a huge... I get it, so that this peg is for pegging into the back of the Jeep mode, but god, this is such a bad design. It doesn't really look bad unless you go past that, but like it's just kind of lame. Also, the hinges on is kind of looser than I like, but that's whatever. His other accessories are one you've already seen, the spare tire that goes on the back of his leg. Unfortunately, this is not a great connection, which is kind of ironic because it pegs in super well on his Jeep mode, and the two pegs should be the same size, but on this one, it just doesn't. I guess, again, I could use some polyurethane or something or thicken up that peg, but I don't really want to because I don't really care enough. I don't really think it looks great with it on anyways. Whatever, it's just an accessory. He also has his gun from his Jeep mode, which has a tight hinge, thankfully, and looks much better in the Jeep mode. He can hold it, but it looks super lame in my opinion, so I never use it. And then his main accessory is the projection gun that Hound has recolored. And I mean, it looks like a pistol, and I use it as a pistol, and it looks okay. Yeah, but that's basically it for accessories. There's no cage for Ravage like Hound has, and there's no canopy like Hound has, which is kind of ironic considering this release is, I think, more expensive, but Newage penny pinching on accessories is nothing new. That's pretty much it for robot mode. Let's get into some size comparisons. So here we have Dark of the Moon, Cyberverse Flak. So you can see he's about the size of a Legion class figure, which is kind of crazy considering his complexity and his articulation. Again, insane. Here's a Core Bomb Burst, right? So shorter than your average core. Here is Newage Depth Charge, who is we're getting bigger now. And then finally, to give you an idea of legend scale, here is a Buzzworthy Bumblebee G2 Trooper. So yeah, he's a really tiny guy, and it's absolutely crazy how he probably has more articulation points than anybody in this video. And for his size, it's truly impressive. The transformation is super impressive, and I'm going to get him transformed, and then we're going to look at that alternate mode. So here it is in alternate mode. As you can see, he gets immensely small. Size comparisons out of the way. Yeah, tiny guy. Alt mode does look great though. It cleans up really well, looks pretty nice, has minimal kibble. I mean, wow, they did a fantastic job. Spare tire tags on just fine, even the rear lights are picked out. I mean, absolutely great paint work. You even got your steering wheel molded in and articulated seats, so you can put the seats down, and you can fit a die knot in there, which is crazy. Turret articulates and it goes up and down. Definitely meant for this mode. You can tab in the bot mode turret, which is what I assume this ugly long peg is for, but it doesn't really work. Yeah, it barely works and it looks bad. So that's a waste. But yeah, I mean, the alternate mode looks great, rolls, functions perfectly fine. A little bit of parts forming with these, but these are technically accessories because you can just take them off and it's still 100% complete. It does look fantastic. That brings up final thoughts. I think this is a figure that does a lot of things really well. The transformation is super fun despite being really complex for the size and honestly a bit too much so. The bot mode is super cool and the alt mode is super cool. The problem with this figure is that there's just a bunch of little things that bring the whole thing down. The spare tire won't tab in on the back of the robot mode foot. Who cares? It's a nitpick, right? The weird design of the shoulder cannon. Who cares? It's nitpick, right? There's one step in the transformation that feels really scary. That's more of a nitpick. Less of a nitpick, actually. It's a big issue. And then there's the ankle tilt, which is a big issue. And all those things kind of combine to wear the figure down, not to mention that it also costs like $46, which is way too much for a Newage Carbot, unfortunately. And it doesn't really come with enough accessories to justify that price either. Look, I've ragged on Newage a few times, and I think this is a good figure as a whole package, but it does have some flaws. And if you aren't super enthused with the design, I still maybe say give it a shot because the transformation is really satisfying. It's not something you have to keep, but I think it's something that would be fun to experience. I don't know. I like this figure, but it just has some issues. And I think for $46, you could maybe do better, but you could also do a lot worse. If the ankle tilt doesn't bother you and that one step during transformation, you can go look up videos. It's like the part where you clip in the waist, the pelvis. If that's fine to you, then it won't be an issue. It does everything else really well. It's a pretty great figure, and I think it's one of Newage's best Carbots, probably their best so far. But my final recommendation is, like, if you're not super sold on it, I don't think it's gonna like change your mind. I bought it, I wasn't super sold on it. The ankle tilt was always a concern to me, and it never stopped being a concern. I never really got over it, unfortunately, because it's one thing that lets a great figure down. It's super articulated, and then all of a sudden it's not, which is a huge shame. The transformation is super fun until suddenly it's not. And there's just little things in crucial areas that take this from like a 9 out of 10 to like a 7.5. And I don't feel it's worth nearly $50. But if you like how it looks and you like what you see, then I can easily recommend it. Because if you can get over the ankle tilt, you're pretty much 99% of the way there to liking the figure. And if the ankle tilt is enough for you, then you're good. So that's pretty much it. I think I kept this one short, but that's all I really have to say. Until next time, thanks for supporting my channel. Have a great one. Peace.